Time now for the Trapasso Report, hosted by Chris Trapasso.
Hello, and welcome to the first edition of the Trapasso Report podcast. Thanks for listening in. I'm your host, Chris Trapasso. The plan here is to have fun on a weekly basis, but talk seriously on everything going on in the NFL. Before we really get going, because this is the debut podcast, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. I've been writing for BleacherReport.com since 2008, and have been a full-time NFL beat writer there since the start of the 2011 season. Also, I write weekly Buffalo Bills columns for Yahoo Sports. I'm starting off with an interesting show this evening that's going to really focus in on the AFC. I'll have Tennessee Titans linebacker Colin McCarthy on as a guest, as well as Joe Caporoso of TurnOnTheJets.com. Before we get to our call with Colin, there's a lot going on in the NFL right now. The New England Patriots just signed Tim Tebow, which really sent shockwaves through the whole Twitterverse. We're not really sure how he's going to be used, maybe as a tight end. He's obviously not going to be beating out Ryan Mallett or Tom Brady, and you would think that the Patriots would be nuts to take the ball out of Tom Brady's hands. I mean, there's a big difference between Mark Sanchez and Tom Brady. And then, a few minutes later it's June. There's not supposed to be anything going on in the NFL. The Buffalo Bills released Tavares Jackson, who they signed prior to the 2012 season under Chan Gailey. He never threw a pass in Buffalo. I don't think he was ever active last year. So that really bodes well for E.J. Manuel. Now he's only got to beat out one guy, Kevin Cobb, for that starting job. Undrafted free agent quarterback Jeff Toole is probably popping the champagne right now. He looks pretty good to be that number 3 guy. So a lot going on in the NFL for being, the middle of June, but that's how it goes. It's 24/7, 365. There's never really any downtime, even as much as we might hear that it's a downtime. So we're here with Colin McCarthy, linebacker for the Tennessee Titans. Colin, how's it going this evening?
I'm doing great. How you guys doing?
Pretty good. Thanks for coming on.
Oh, no problem. Thanks for having me.
All right. So it's June 10th. You've been through a few OTA sessions. You got minicamp coming up, but what do you have planned over the next few weeks or the next month until training camp kicks off in July?
Yeah, no, I'm actually heading back down to South Florida. I'm teaming up with a company called Get Live and SAS, which is it's a sports training facility down there. And we're putting together a football clinic for ages between 7 and 18. And it's just going to be fun. I got a bunch of my teammates who played at Miami with me coming out, a couple of other NFL guys coming out there to support it. And, this is our first year doing it, so we're excited. And, I think it's going to be a great time.
Yeah, just getting a lot of those kids their publicity that they probably wouldn't get otherwise, and just really teaching them the game. I think that's a great thing.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be fun. We're still doing registrations for the camp. You can go to getlive.com/football camp, and the Get Live, it has 2 I's in live. So we're excited about it. Excited about who we're partnering up with. Obviously, it's a wide range of ages, so all the way from, little kids that just coming out, getting started with football, to, we're going to be doing 7-on-7, 1-on-1, allowing the high school kids to compete. So I think it's going to be a great mix. Have some guys out there working with them on technique, and, it's a 2-day camp, and we're excited about it, and it's going to be June 28th and 29th, so it's coming shortly.
All right, so let's Get Live with 2 I's /football camp, correct?
GetLive.com/football camp, yep.
All right, awesome. All right, so today I asked a lot of my Twitter followers if they had any questions for you, and the majority of all the Titans guys who follow me really replied wondering about your health. What have you done training or rehab-wise this off-season? And lastly, how's your ankle?
Well, to start off, I had ankle surgery after the season, so that was much needed, and excited I got that done, and I'm participating during these OTAs. I'm going to be participating for the mini camp, and it's going well. Obviously, last year was a tough year for me, both mentally and physically. Not being able to be out there with the guys, seeing the defense struggle a little bit like we did, it was tough. But, it's a new season. I'm getting healthy. I'm feeling better every day. Really have had no setbacks. So I'm excited for this year. And, I think that's the biggest question I'll have is, my injury history until I can prove it wrong. So I'm excited to do that this year.
Yeah, good. I mean, I can definitely see how last year would be pretty frustrating for you because you had a very good rookie season and you were playing well last year, and then just the ankle comes up and a concussion. So, yeah, I can definitely see how you're really, really chomping at the bit to really get back this year in your third season and play a full 16 games.
Definitely. No, that's my mindset, obviously, to stay healthy, be available, when my number's called to get out there and make plays. And, I'm excited for this season. And, time will tell as far as, my opportunity.
All right. I think that there's an assortment of young defensive talent on your team's roster. From that, who is the guy that you think on defense that probably doesn't get as much credit as he really deserves?
I'd probably say Drill Casey. He came in with me. He's entering into his third year now. And, he's a dominant D tackle. He does a great job playing the 3 technique, playing the nose guard when he's asked to. And, he does a great job of picking up double teams, allowing me in the back end to run around and make plays. So he's a guy who, he has sacks. He has tackles for loss. He's disruptive in the backfield. And for a D tackle, it's rare to see, but he does a great job doing it.
So also kind of staying on the defensive side of the ball, how exciting is it for you to be able to play with super athletic outside linebackers like Akeem Ayers, Zach Brown, this rookie Xavier Gooden that they brought in? He can fly. Does that make your job easier on the inside playing with not only a guy like Casey and like Mike Martin up front on the D-line, but just those outside linebackers that can really fly to the football?
Yeah, no, it's exciting. I think, like you said, we got a lot of young athletic players, a lot of guys who can make big plays, a lot of playmakers on defense. And, with Akeem, he can get after the rush the passer. Zach Brown, he did a great job last year rushing the passer too. And, it's exciting. We got a young group of core linebackers here, in Tennessee. And, as long as we all stay healthy, we do a great job in practice and, through meetings, staying on top of each other, pushing each other to be better, to be great. And, it's our third year, me and Akeem, and Zach going into his second. And if we're playing at our best, we can be a great core. Yeah,
I really think if you guys all stay healthy, and especially like I said with Martin up front and Casey up front, you guys can do a lot of great things in that linebacking core. Switching gears to the offensive side, what are your general thoughts about what type of quarterback Jake Locker can be? I think that the media and the fans have maybe been a little too harsh on him. He's still very young. He has battled injuries, and obviously how frustrating that can be. Do you think this is a year where we can really see him take that next step forward into that, not necessarily elite class, but better than what he's been in his first 2 seasons?
Yeah, definitely. I think, like you said, he struggled last year with the shoulder surgery. He had surgery. He played a lot of the year with it. So that says a lot about him as a player, a lot about him as a person to, have the shoulder come out. Obviously, being in a sport where he gets hit a lot, so he battled different offensive linemen all last year, rotating, and still managed to win some games and managed to put together a good offense for us. So I think Jake as a teammate is gonna he's been waiting for this opportunity. Obviously, it's his offense now. He's the man behind center, so he's been doing great during these OTAs. Obviously, we're excited about him in this offense, and with the new the new weapons we brought in, it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So you've lived in Nashville, Tennessee for a few years now, which is basically the country music capital of the world. Would you call yourself a country music fan now, or have you always been, or how does that work?
I've always kind of been a country fan, but you get a new respect for country music being here in Nashville. You get the bars, you get the honky tonks, you get a little bit of everything. You get the cowboy hats, the boots. So I haven't bought any of those yet, but Nashville is definitely I feel comfortable here. I enjoy being here, and Nashville's my home.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, it seems like a really fun town for sure.
Definitely is.
All right. You've had only a few mini camps. You kind of, worked your way back through this ankle injury. But when you were out there on the field, were there any rookies, either guys that your team drafted or any of those undrafted guys who really opened your eyes thus far?
Thus far in this draft?
Yeah, like in the mini camps, were there any rookies that really opened your eyes in the mini camps, or just working out with them, and guys that kind of surprised you with how they have acclimated to the NFL game so far?
Well, I think they've all done a good job. Obviously they Chance Womack, the offensive lineman, he's a big physical guy. Obviously we don't have pads on yet, but you can see the the physical play he has. And, I think we're going to rely on him a lot this year to anchor our offensive line along with the veteran guys that we have. And, I think he's one of the, more exciting guys, and the guys we're going to rely on a lot this year.
All right. Lastly, tell me what part or parts of your game that you're specifically looking to improve upon in 2013. Are you trying to look better in coverage, shedding blocks, recognizing plays faster? Just are there any parts of your game that you're sitting down in the, on the practice field, in the film room, and saying, I want to get better at this certain part of my game?
Everything. I think, I'm never satisfied. Obviously, there's a lot of things to work on, a lot of things to improve on. Just to name a few, obviously footwork is extremely important. Making sure I'm not doing any false steps, making sure I have my feet underneath me as far as when I make contact, whether it's with the running back, with an offensive lineman, whether it's block shedding, and then even in the film room, making sure I'm, on top of my game. Obviously, we brought in Coach Williams to work with Coach Gray, so making sure, I'm on the same page as far as what they want the Mike linebacker to get done on the field. So just do everything I can to make sure when my opportunity comes to get back in there and play Mike, I'm ready to go.
All right, that is Tennessee Titans middle linebacker Colin McCarthy. You can find him on Twitter at Colin McCarthy52, and his website is www.colinmccarthynfl.com. Colin, thank you so much for coming on with me tonight.
No, Chris, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Are you looking for an NFL website that doesn't throw rumors against the wall and hope they stick? Then please go to ProFootballCentral.com for up-to-date news and information. ProFootballCentral.com is back and better than ever. We're dedicated to being your number one NFL fan site, so come check us out at ProFootballCentral.com and experience the difference.
All right, now we have Joe Caparoso of TurnOnTheJets.com. Great Jets website. Joe, how's it going?
I'm doing good. How about you?
Doing pretty well, like you said earlier. You know, it's Tebow mania on this Monday evening when we weren't expecting it at all.
Never escaped Tebow. I really was looking forward to a nice, quiet Tebow-less off-season, Tebow-less season, and, of course, now he ends up in the AFC and the Jets will play New England week 2. So fair goes that.
I think there was a lot of people out there. There were many people that kind of thought Tebow was done in the NFL, and you know, he was either going to have to go to the CFL or, you know, join some network and be an analyst or do something. But now all of a sudden, like you said, he's on the Patriots. He's going to be playing the Jets, which is totally crazy. But, I mean, knowing Bill Belichick's past, it's not really surprising that he's kind of kicking the tires on a guy that a lot of people don't want.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone's going to take this kind of risk, it's Belichick. I think they might be looking at this as the kind of thing where, you know, put Tebow on the bench for a year or two, leak a ton of reports on how much he's improved his mechanics and how great he looks in practice, and then try to trade him for, you know, a third, fourth, or fifth round pick to some stupid team 2 to 3 years from now, like they managed to do with, you know, Matt Castle, and they might eventually end up doing with Ryan Mallett. And, you know, same thing, everyone always talks about Brian Hoyer was supposed to have all his trade value, even though it turned out he never really did. Maybe that's this kind of situation with Tebow. It's hard for me to see him being a weekly part of their game plan because they already have one of the 3 best offenses in the league, led by a Hall of Fame quarterback. Why are you going to take Brady off the field, or why are you going to fix something that's not broken? If he does play this year, it will be when they're beating the Jets by 3 touchdowns, and they bring him in to run in a couple of touchdowns just to make us all miserable. That's the only time I can see it play.
Yeah, I don't really see how Tebow is really a viable offensive, you know, quarterback, tight end, H-back, anything for the Patriots this season because, like you said, which is the best point of them all, is that how are you going to take the ball out of Tom Brady's hands, who's arguably the best quarterback of all time, and put it into Tim Tebow's hands. So, all right, enough about Tebow. I'm sure everyone's been seeing it on Twitter and seeing it on ESPN. It's going to be on ESPN. He's going to be on ESPN for the next probably 3 or 4 months nonstop, first take, all that. Let's talk about the Jets. Today I'm going to start with the news that Rod Graves, kind of his hiring was announced. Kind of talk about what you think he brings to the Jets front office.
I think it's an interesting hiring. It's been rumored for a couple months. We were just kind of waiting for it to become official and see what his exact job title was going to be. I mean, Graves, you know, worked with Itzik in Arizona. He has a scouting background, which is good. I mean, Itzik has, you know, some of the scouting background, but was really more of a, you know, working on the salary cap and a numbers kind of guy. So actually it's almost like the roles are reversed. Itzik was working under Graves in their time in Arizona. And I think he wanted to really put his imprint on this front office and the scouting department by getting some of his guys in there. He also hired 4 new area scouts. He also promoted one of the Jets scouts to an assistant director of player personnel position. And, you know, I'm hoping, and it's something I wrote about today, that this is just going to further minimize Terry Bradway's impact or voice throughout the organization, because I'm still not sure how he's employed by the Jets. He was demoted from being the GM in 2006. Stayed on all throughout the Tannenbaum era, and still is somehow employed by the team, despite being a guy who traded a first-round pick for Doug Jolly, a second-round pick for Justin McCarron, and took Mike Nugent in the second round. He must have some incriminating photos of Lee Johnson or something. I'm not sure how he still has a job.
All right. The other Jets news of this week was Kellen Winslow's Jets tweet that then kind of subsequently came the report that he's going to have a tryout with the Jets. Do you see him, you know, going from street free agent to getting a tryout to being one of the starting tight ends this season, or do you kind of think he's over the hill, knee injuries, he's too old, even the Jets won't take him at this point?
I mean, it's really going to be a matter of health. I mean, what I heard was that he really didn't feel that he was anywhere near 100% last year when he was in New England, and kind of requested his release and take the extra time to rehab and get himself fully healthy. I mean, it was only a few years ago he had, you know, a couple very, very strong seasons. I mean, you know, he was productive in Tampa Bay for a little while when he was there. If Winslow is really healthy and he's even 90% of the player he used to be, he's not only going to make the team, he's probably going to start, because the Jets' tight end situation is borderline ridiculous right now. I I mean, right now, Jeff Cumberland's their tentative starter. We just broke down the film on him on the site, and the guy simply put is an NFL starter at tight end. I think he's, a situational player at best. And beyond him, they really don't have anybody else. They have Hayden Smith, who was a rugby player but has no real NFL experience, and they have a couple other undrafted free agents. It's really a job that's wide open. So if Winslow comes in, looks healthy, he's the kind of guy if we just go out, have a decent training camp, and continue to get better in the preseason, and he'll be starting week 1.
Yeah, I mean, he's only 29 years old, and like you said, it was only 2 years ago when he was pretty productive. So if he did kind of take pretty much the majority of the 2012 season and, rehab his knee, rehab all of his other nagging injuries, I think, kind of like you said, he's finding himself in a pretty good situation with the Jets. And, yes, he could make the team, and he could start as that pass-catching guy.
Yeah, I mean, the Jets have a major shortage of pass-catching options right now. They're banged up at receiver and really lack depth there. And like I just said, at tight end, it's another, thin position. They really, this offseason, they really seem to focus on kind of building both lines, the offensive and defensive line, and I don't think they really have the resources that they're holding off for next year to really addressing more of the skill positions outside of running back, where they spend some money this offseason.
All right, so moving from tight end to the position that will be throwing the ball to the tight end this year, a lot has been rightfully made about this whole Geno Smith, Mark Sanchez situation. This is kind of a pretty generic question, but are you on Team Geno or Team Sanchez heading into training camp, and kind of give me some reasons why?
I mean, I try not to be Team anybody. I try to be Team Jets. There's a group of Jets fans out there who just will root against Mark Sanchez even at the negative of, the Jets playing well, which I will never understand.
For sure.
Jets
yeah.
want him to play well, even if he's been awful the past couple seasons. He's still one of the most successful quarterbacks in franchise history, at least in terms of playoff wins, which speaks kind of more to Jets history than Sanchez. But still, I've kind of been a Sanchez apologist the last 3 or 4 years. I think the Jets have not done a great job, specifically the last 2 years, kind of building around him and keeping talent around him. I think that if Geno Smith is competent this summer and looks like he's picking up the offense well, that Rex Ryan won't hesitate to start him. Rex Ryan started a rookie quarterback his first year as a head coach and went to the AFC Championship game, so I don't think there's going to be any hesitation from him to do that. So if they kind of play to a draw, I think we'll just go with Smith. I mean, really, why not? You really would want to see Sanchez run away with his job. He should, this is going to be his 5th year in the league. He's experienced around the building. He's been in the organization. You would hope he would run away with his job, then you could give it to him. But if not, if he's going to play Geno Smith to a draw, if Geno Smith looks competent and he's playing well in the preseason, I would have no problem seeing the Jets start Geno Smith. I mean, the Jets offense is going to be built around running the ball heavily and, relying on their defense again. It's not like they're going to be airing it out 50, 60 times a game. So get Geno in there now, see how he plays as a rookie, and then see where, you end up in the draft next year if he's a guy you really want to go forward with.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there are a lot of people out there who think, if you throw a rookie quarterback on a team that's not, ridiculously talented from top to bottom, then, it's going to ruin his career. It's going to stun his growth. His confidence is never going to return. But kind of like you said, the Jets are going to be about running the football and playing very good defense. So in a way, Geno Smith really could be almost protected, so to speak. They're not going to ask him to win every game and throw 45 times a game. So, yeah, I think if it is a draw, I think you're right that I think Rex Ryan is going to ultimately kind of tilt toward Geno and start him in week 1.
Yeah, I think, I'm also Marty Morningway's offense may be able to play to Geno Smith's strengths a little bit. I think there's a lot of quick releases, a lot of receiver screens, a lot of stuff in that short to intermediate passing game, which he did at West Virginia. And, when you look at the Jets' passing game, how they're going to move the ball, I think is going to be throwing a lot of passes to their running back. I think it's going to be a lot of quick screens to Jeremy Curley and Santonio Holmes where you try to get them the ball on an easy completion, get them the ball in space and let them make something happen. And that's the kind of offense that Geno Smith could play well in. And really, Mark Sanchez, if you look at throwing screens and throwing those kind of quick timing patterns, isn't really something he's excelled at. whether that's been a byproduct of, the Jets' offensive system and having Sean Green at running back, that still remains to be seen.
All right, kind of like we were just talking about, that the Jets' offense is going to really be predicated on the run. I was a huge Chris Ivory fan during his stint with the Saints. To me, I think he's the most violent runner in the NFL. He runs low. He finishes every run hard. I know a lot of people would say, Adrian Peterson or DeMarco Murray, but just whenever Ivory would touch the ball, he would make the most of every single run. Behind what's typically a pretty sound run-blocking offensive line, what do you think his potential is yard-wise, touchdown-wise for the Jets? And what do you think the optimal amount of carries should be for him? And where do you think he'll end up carry-wise?
I'm very, very excited about the Ivory trade. I think it was arguably the best move the Jets made this offseason. I think this is a guy who has a ton of natural talent. It's just kind of been buried on that depth chart in New Orleans in a pass-first offense. Particularly, like you mentioned, the Jets have really built a very strong run-blocking offensive line. Obviously, Mangold and Ferguson are good players. Austin Howard, very mediocre in pass protection, but was a very good run blocker last year. And if Willie Cole would stay healthy at guard and Brian Winters is ready to go as a third-round pick, which I think he will be, they're going to have a very solid run-blocking unit to lean on. And Ivory, the main question with him is, can he stay healthy? Can he really be a feature back for 16 games? I'm of the belief that if Ivory's out there for 16 games, he's going to be a guy who's getting 20 carries a week. If he should be the kind of guy who's a 12, 13, 1,400-yard back, putting up the kind of numbers that, Thomas Jones was putting up back in 2008 and 2009 for the Jets, when they were a little more run-heavy. Ivory has that kind of talent. If you give him the same amount of carries that Sean Green got last year, he's going to put up another 250, 300 yards because he's not going to leave yards on the field, and he's actually going to break tackles and make people miss. And what's nice about the Jets running back position this year is that, pending Mike Goodson's legal situation, it seems to be looking like the gun charge is going to go against the person he was in the car with. They have pretty good depth around them. Because Goodson's another guy who really hasn't had a ton of opportunities, but another very talented natural runner, fits in really seamlessly as a natural third down back and change of pace. And then Bilal Powell was pretty good last year, almost like a slightly better version of Sean Green, if you will, and a guy who could kind of back up both of them, play on third down because he's a good pass protector, and also take some of the inside runs that they're trying to spell Ivory. They also still have Joe McKnight in the roster, who's never really been able to pick up the offense to stay healthy, but a guy who has talent without question. So it wouldn't be surprising, considering Ivory and Goodson's durability issues, that the Jets actually kept all four halfbacks this year.
Oh, wow. Okay. From that, do you ultimately think that we'll see Chris Ivory get between, 310, 330 carries? You think a little less than that, a little more than that?
I think he's the kind of guy, that number sounds about right to me. I think he's the kind of guy who's probably going to average about 17 to 21, 22 carries a week if he's healthy and lining up every week, because particularly early in the year, the Jets are going to want to be as run-heavy as possible. Rex Ryan wants to win with his defense and with his offense protecting the football. And how they're going to do that is when you look at the Jets' offense, when you look at their depth chart, it's built to run the ball successfully and potentially actually have a very good running game. Passing-wise, you have a huge question mark at quarterback. You have the worst group of tight ends in the NFL. And you have a very shaky situation at receiver where you really have no depth, and you have two of your top guys coming off serious off-season surgery. So they're going to lean very heavily on the running game.
All right, shifting gears to the defensive side now. A lot was made earlier, I want to say actually it was probably late May, about the news that Quentin Coples was going to play outside linebacker. He was going to cover a little bit more. Where do you think he can best be utilized in the Jets defense? And then from that, where do you think he ultimately will be put by the Jets coaching staff?
Yeah, this is one of those stories that's kind of been misinterpreted and, kind of mishyped by some of the people in the New York media, because it was something that was kind of mentioned by the Jets defensive line coach that Coples will be seeing more time at the rush position in their 3-4, which is something that he played last year. He only played 47% of the defensive snaps last year, but really towards the end of the season, that's what he was spending most of the time. And the Jets really don't run a traditional 3-4. It's a mix of 4-man fronts, it's a mix of 5-man fronts. They'll throw in the 46. So Copels is really going to be used as the team's primary pass rusher, and he's going to be all over the place. He's going to be lined up as a traditional defensive end. He's going to have his hand in the dirt. There will be some times he's lined up as more of a traditional 3-4 outside linebacker, but the amount of times you're going to see him drop into coverage or, play what most people would automatically assume is a 3-4 outside linebacker is not going to be a high amount. When he's on the field, his primary job is going to be rushing the quarterback, and he's going to do it from outside linebacker. He's going to do it from defensive end. He's going to do it from defensive tackle. I mean, he led the team in sacks last year and didn't even play half the snaps. He's the kind of guy that they need to be a 10, 12 sack guy, and they're going to feature the defense around making him that kind of guy.
Yeah, and it seems like a lot of the Jets' defensive success over, the last 4 years under Rex Ryan has been with taking those really good pass rushers and moving them around, putting them inside on a few run plays, bumping them out to the 3-4 outside linebacker spot, putting their hand in the dirt. So I think you're right about that Copels probably is their most talented pass rusher on the team, and Ryan always does a great job with getting those guys into the right positions to get after the quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, that's really his specialty, and I think when you look at the Jets' depth chart, Copels is really the best pure pass rusher on the team. The people are Antoine Barnes, a guy with 11 sacks 2 years ago. I think he'll also be featured in that role. Really beyond those two, they don't have anybody else who you can really anticipate getting after the quarterback too much. I mean, Muhammad Wilkerson is a dominant player up front. He's terrific, but he's really more of a two-way defensive end. He's going to steal out of double teams. He's not the kind of guy you're going to bank on to get 10 sacks. He's probably a 5-6 sack guy. But with Barnes and Copels, those are the guys who I think are really going to be moved around and featured and getting after the quarterback.
All right, the other, main storyline going into the Jets season, which this might seem like a total stretch to you, or you might have a very distinct opinion on this. If the Jets fail to make the postseason in 2013, do you think Rex Ryan should be fired, and do you think he will be fired?
It's really going to depend on how the season finishes and what that final record is. I think if the Jets are 8-8 and 9-7 and just miss the playoffs, I don't think he'll get fired. I don't think he should get fired. Really, I don't think he should get fired unless they really bottom out this year as a 4-12, 5-11 team. I don't think Rex is really the problem. I think the fact that the Jets were 6-10 last year, when you look at the roster and you look at some of the people they were playing with down the stretch, is impressive. I mean, this is a team that was playing meaningful games in December. They found a way to beat Tennessee without Sanchez having 5 turnovers on that Monday night game. They were going to be playing, battling out for a wild card spot those last 2 weeks. Talent-wise last year, they were one of the 3 or 4 worst teams in the league, I think, after Holmes and Reeves went down. I mean, they were starting Clyde Gates and Marty Killiard and Jeff Cumberland at skill position spots, along with, Sean Green and Sanchez.
Yeah, true.
So
true.
Rex,
Keep
them competitive and, around 500. I think he will keep the job, and I think he should keep the job. Their schedule's a little tough in the middle, but, they're a team that if you have a good defense and you can run the ball, I think they could be a little more competitive than most people assume they're going to be.
All right, so kind of a perfect segue from that. A lot of people are down on the Jets. They're a circus. They don't have a quarterback. They're kind of like you've been talking about. Their tight end position is not very good. They have 2 of their main receivers are coming off big injuries. Give me a few reasons why people, maybe outside of just Jets fans that are living in the New York, New Jersey area, why other people and just the whole nation as a whole should be a little more optimistic about the Jets. What really has to happen for them to compete? Maybe not for the AFC East title, but for like one of those wild card spots you were talking about.
Well, I think if the Jets are going to win, it's going to be how they've always won with Rex Ryan. It's going to be from their defense. It's going to be from their running game. And I think they've really assembled an excellent young defensive line. I think Muhammad Wilkerson should have been an all-pro. I think Quentin Copel has 10-sack potential. And I think Sheldon Richardson is going to fit right into that mix. I think he's going to actually turn out to probably be the top player that the Jets took in this draft. And everyone always talks about Geno Smith and D. Milner was taken higher, but if Rex Ryan's around for the next few years, I think Richardson's going to be a beast in this defense. So, you look at that, they're going to have a young, talented defensive line rotation. They still have Cromartie at corner. You have D. Milner stepping in, opposite him. They just played without Revis last year, and their pass coverage wasn't really the issue. You could walk yourself into this team playing a lot of low-scoring, competitive games where they're running the ball well, they're playing good defense, and, we got to look at the division. I mean, Buffalo, kind of on the same level as the Jets right now. I don't think anybody's projecting them to be anything more than maybe a 5 to 7 win team. Miami's got a lot of hype with all the free agents they brought in, but again, they've had, 4 straight losing seasons. It's not like this is a loaded division. You have to deal with New England twice, but, you find a way to get a couple wins against Buffalo and Miami. You find a way to get some wins in some of the softer parts of your schedule. Again, this could be a team that's 6-6 or 6-7 in December and still playing, relevant, meaningful football. I don't necessarily think under Rex Ryan, this is the kind of team who's going to start out 2-9 or something.
Yeah, I mean, he really has done a pretty good job keeping the Jets from being utterly horrible and going 2-14. And although there were a lot of embarrassing moments and games like the butt fumble game on Thanksgiving, the Monday Night Titans game, they did go 10-6. So he's done a pretty good job keeping that team from really falling apart.
Yeah, and I think the players respect him. I think the players like playing for him. And one thing with Rex, he's always going to roll out a competitive defense. And that's where you have confidence in that he's going to scheme up a good enough defense. And the Jets have talent on their defense. I mean, they're a little thin at linebacker, but, there's still some good pieces on that defense, particularly with Wilkerson and Cromartie kind of leading the way. And, they got DeJuan Landry back there at safety. Beyond him, they're a little thin at that position, but they'll be a good competitive defense. And if they get, average quarterback play where the guy's not throwing the ball away 3-4 times a game, they're going to be competitive most weeks.
All right, Joe, before we let you go, you are joining the PF Central Radio family of networks with your own show called Jets Central Radio. Tell us a little bit about what you plan to do on this show, what night it's going to air. Just kind of give us some details about that coming up.
Yeah, we're really excited. It's kind of been a long time coming for us to finally get a podcast up and rolling. So, we're excited to be working with PF Central. I believe we're going to record on Wednesday of this week. We haven't necessarily locked down what our everyday weekly day is going to be. It'll probably be Wednesday or Thursday. And, we're just going to try to get a lot of player interviews, as many as we can. We're going to roll through our writers and writers on the Jet site and just try to keep, just a 1-hour weekly perspective on what's going on with the team and kind of speak to some of the stuff that we cover on the website and then try to get the perspective of some, players around the team that we're able to get on the show.
Awesome. All right, Joe, thanks for coming on. Again, this was Joe Caparoso of TurnOnTheJets.com, easily one of the best Jets sites on the web. It's got all the information you need about Gang Green. You can find Joe on Twitter at TurnOnTheJets. Obviously, his website is TurnOnTheJets.com, and his new radio podcast will be at Jets Central Radio. Thanks again, Joe.
Thanks for having me.
That was Joe Caparoso of TurnOnTheJets.com. A lot of great Jets information there. He could have probably talked all night about everything going on with Gang Green. Well, that will do it for the first episode of the Trapasso Report podcast. We had Colin McCarthy on, great young middle linebacker for the Tennessee Titans. If he stays healthy, I think there's a big future for him, and not only just for him, but for that whole Tennessee Titans defense. They got a lot of young talent. You can find him on Twitter at Colin McCarthy52, and his website is ColinMcCarthyNFL.com. Joe, you can find him at Turn on the Jets and TurnOnTheJets.com. Like we said earlier, he is launching his own Jets radio podcast for PF Central Radio this week called Jets Central Radio, and you can find him on Twitter at Jets Central Radio. For your host, Chris Trapasso, signing off.
This has been a presentation of the Pro Football Central Network. For news, blogs, highlights, and more, log on to ProFootballCentral.com.